Hello there, welcome to Courageous Consciousness. I'm DJ Gallup, and today what we're going to be talking about is how to replace perfectionism with self-love. And if you watch my channel, you know I always like to give credit where credit is due, and I will tell you that a lot of content from today is coming from this most fabulous book. If you've never come across it, it's called Light Emerging. It's by Barbara Ann Brennan. If you are the slightest bit interested in learning energy work, Reiki, healing touch, anything like that, I can't recommend Barbara Ann Brennan's books enough. She has two, or actually three, Light Emerging, Hands of Light, and I can't remember what the third one's called. But anyway, these books are fantastic. And so, just to get started here, what I'd like to remind you as the viewer of, before we get going here, is you are a healer. I know some people think that healers are just these special people and have these special abilities, but we all are healers. We all have been sick at some point and have gotten well. We all have the ability of repairing our own bodies, our own psyche, things like that. So you are primarily responsible for most of your own healing. And of course, yes, there are times that you do want to go see a healer. There are times that you might want to go see a doctor. Absolutely. But you are the person most responsible for your own healing process. But what you have to realize is that in order to self-heal, you need to also come to things from this attitude of self-love. You need to have a positive self-image in order to self-heal. Because if the way you are viewing yourself is very negatively, if you are seeing yourself from a place of self-judgment, self-hate, self-loathing, low self-esteem, then you are vibrating at energies so low that it makes it really, really hard for your body to heal. And according to Barbara Ann Brennan in this chapter that I'm kind of reviewing here, what she thinks is one of the biggest issues in our society when it comes to self-healing is low self-esteem or self-hate. And she thinks that a lot of this comes from our perfectionist tendencies. We kind of develop these perfectionist tendencies, and that might not necessarily be the best way to describe it, but maybe another way of thinking about it is we have this kind of core belief, or at least a lot of us do, that we should be judged based on what we do, based on our accomplishments, based on pleasing other people, based on achieving goals that we have made for ourselves. And what happens is when we build our self-worth on these things, on trying to please others, on trying to reach goals, it becomes less and less valuable over time, right? If you're someone who keeps setting goals for themselves and then, and then you achieve it and then you go on to your next goal, what happens? I mean, each goal starts meaning less and less and less and less. And once you actually achieve your goal, it doesn't really feel that good anymore. And a lot of this stems from how we've been raised. So what she says is a lot of this comes from our childhood. And it may come from having to please people, maybe having to please our parents or our teachers or our clergy or, other adults in our life. And so we get trained into this habit of having to please people. And oftentimes we had to please people in order to get either praise or love. Or maybe you would do something good and you would get praised, but you wouldn't necessarily get the love that you needed as a child. And so from there, that develops this sort of perfectionist tendency where you keep having to go after all of these external things in order to make yourself feel better. But after a while, going after those external things to make you feel better stops feeling so good. And then generally what happens is we kind of fall into this habit of guilt and feeling bad about ourselves and feeling that we've wasted our lives and feeling that we are only existing to please others. And it is a really vicious cycle. But just remember, this is all coming back to self-healing. So what we want to do, of course, is we want to lift ourselves out of that low vibration, out of that self-hate, out of that low self-esteem, and get ourselves into a place of genuinely loving ourselves so that we can kind of break these ingrained habits of perfectionism that we have developed throughout our lives. So that raises the big question, which is, how do we do that? How do we break out of this perfectionism cycle? How do we break out of having to please others? Well, thankfully, she actually provides a few simple tips. One is get in touch with your inner child. This is something that a lot of us have lost over the years. You know, when we're children, the world is our oyster and we can really just do whatever we want. We can run around in circles, we can sing, we can dance, we can play music. We can do all of these really fun activities that as adults we tend to kind of lose. So what you really need to do is take, she recommends a whole hour per day. Now, is that really feasible for a lot of us? Maybe not. But, take as much time as you can, even if you can only do a half hour a day. Take a half hour where you have nothing else to do but do exactly what you want to do and not what you have to do. And that could be, go and listen to some music or run around or, strip off your clothes and run around naked. I don't care. But you have to find some time to get in touch with that inner child, because oftentimes, that inner child is what's causing a lot of this self-hate problems. We get caught up in these roles that we play as children, and we kind of just cover it up throughout adulthood, and we kind of just push our inner child aside. But getting back in touch with your inner child can actually be a very healing experience. The other thing that she recommends that you do is that you start actually feeling these negative emotions. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit of a description here about this, because what happens energetically, and maybe you guys know about the chakra system, maybe you don't, but you have these 7 major chakras throughout your body. You have one at the base of your spine, you have one in your lower abdomen, one in your mid-abdomen, your heart, your throat, one here at your brow, and one here at your crown that goes straight up. And each of your chakras kind of has, they all metabolize energy is essentially what they do, but they all have different functions. They help control certain organs of the body, they help provide energy to different parts of the body, but they also have psychological roles in your life as well. So the chakra that is the second lowest, and if I were to stand up here, you would see it's just below my belly button, about an inch below my belly button. That second chakra is called the sacral chakra, and that is the chakra that is primarily responsible for your emotional state. So when you're feeling emotions, whether it's good or bad, it tends to be manifested from that second chakra. So when we're feeling self-hate or low self-esteem, what happens is, of course, that feels really bad. We start kind of experiencing that pain and longing and yearning and all of these kind of really unpleasant emotions. And what happens is a lot of people are so uncomfortable feeling those emotions that they try to hold those emotions still in their second chakra, in their sacral chakra. And so what happens is that people, in order to kind of override those feelings, in order to not feel those feelings, is they try and transfer some of that energy up to their solar plexus, which is in your mid-abdomen. And the solar plexus chakra is your thought chakra. It's all involved with active thinking. So, rather than actually feeling these emotions of self-hate and self-loathing and low self-esteem, what we do is we bring that energy up and it becomes self-judgment. And this is a really vicious cycle because self-judgment creates more bad emotions, and then we keep taking those bad emotions and keep bringing it up to self-judgment, and it just becomes this really vicious circle within our energy system. So what she recommends, what Barbara Ann Brennan recommends that we do is we should actually take time to experience these emotions. And that may sound like a really bad thing, like who wants to feel self-hate or self-loathing? But it actually can be very, very healing. So you may want to do this just, laying down or, as part of a meditation, but you really want to go down to your second chakra and really focus on that lower abdomen and feel those feelings of inadequacy, of low self-esteem, of self-hate, and allow them to exist and face them directly. And what tends to happen is when you do that, they actually start to dissipate and more positive emotions can start to come in. So we start to experience these low emotions, and then thankfully they kind of start to just go away on their own. And after a while of doing this, you start to feel just a little bit of self-love. So what we don't want to do is keep judging ourselves. We want to actually experience the emotions. And the third thing that Barbara Ann Brennan recommends in her book is that we practice self-love meditations. And there's a lot of different ways of doing this. But one thing you may want to do is practice a color meditation. And I'm actually going to be doing an entirely separate video about this. I'm going to be doing it tomorrow, and I will show you guys how to do a color breathing meditation. But what you really want to do is bring a lot of self-love into your whole being, into both your physical body and into your greater energy field all around you. So anyway, what we really want to focus on if you're looking to self-heal anything is raising up our emotional state. We actually want to address what's happening emotionally in our bodies, and we want to work on healing those emotions so that we can start experiencing self-love. And then once we're in that place of feeling good about ourselves, at that point the process of self-healing can begin. And I guess that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Your body is just not going to heal as effectively, whether that's physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Your body is just not going to heal itself that well if we're feeling negative emotions and if we have this negative view of ourselves. So let's start working on that ourselves. Let's start working on self-love, and then we can work on healing everything, and we can become the beautiful, lovely, light-filled healers that we were meant to be, that we were born to be. And I thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a video about a color breathing meditation, which once again comes from the same book, and I will show you guys exactly how to do it. But this meditation will be a great, great way of helping bring self-love into your life. So thank you so much for watching. Of course, I love comments. I love thumbs ups. I love subscribers as well. And I will come out with my new video tomorrow. So namaste and have a most beautiful, wonderful, healing, lovely day. See you tomorrow.